First of all, I just want to start by saying I appreciate love everything you've been doing, the behavior, the characteristics, like you are a walking embodiment of what it is that you're teaching, which come from the master teacher. And throughout my times of doubt, as I was questioning it, it's like it's hard to it's hard to see how you handle these situations and like okay, if you understand where I'm coming from, that's been the foundation. Like whenever the so-called ghost spells try to intervene, or you get back to those old characteristics because we've been, it's a hard thing to accept when you've been conditioned and you've been hoodwinked in so many ways. It's like our natural reaction to something is to kind of discredit it.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate love you,
So
brother. Yeah, and thank you for your kind words. Um, as usual, I always have to say I'm just trying my best to be able to try and put into practice what the master exudes and shows himself, because even though he's so knowledgeable and just able to be so profound in what he has put out to the world, every time I've ever seen him, listened to him, interactions with other people, he's just able to remain so on point, on the square and humble, And yeah, he's the example I try to replicate as much as I possibly can. So thanks again. Thanks again for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. So
So
hopefully the next time we have a one-on-one, I'll be talking to you and Miss Batia. But
wow.
nak
Yeah. Tour.
nakak kasas antak lehi nasa.
Tour. I mean, it's a work in progress for all of us, we're all learning, and because it's alive and it changes, regularly. Um, people find it a bit of a challenge, but the more you use it, the better, you become at it. So yeah, me too. There's kind of a situation where there was one of the books, I think it's the Mind Scroll. No, the Nine Scroll, that the master put
Okay.
out, where I remember when I received it for the first time and I opened it and it was just in Miss Batia. I was like, oh my goodness, no. Like the book's only gonna be in Miss Batia now because we haven't mastered it. And I was like, it gave me a thought, like, what if he just decides to only publish them in Miss Batia now going forward? You see, so yeah, you're right. The next
Okay.
time, hopefully, we will be even
Yeah.
more proficient
Oh,
in the
I'm glad
language.
you brought that up. So that's the kind of because obviously I got so many questions that we're not going to be able to get to, but
We'll do our
I've tried
best.
to like put them in
Yeah.
order in terms of how I want to walk through it.
Okay.
But not just for me, for even just for, when the video gets shared, like I think there's a bunch of common foundational questions that
Mm-hmm.
have become so repetitive, because everybody is entering at different levels. So
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
start off with, to my understanding, the reason why we are able to Google and look and see the master teacher in so many different settings is because that was during the duration when he was taking you all through the multiple schools. So if we see him personifying and talking in Arabic as a Muslim, that's because you all were going through the Muslim school. If he was
Exactly.
talking Okay, if
Yeah.
he was talking about Christianity, the times and stuff when you all was in New York, that's because he was walking you all through the Christian school.
Absolutely. And like you say, sometimes information has to be reiterated over and over again. And the repetitiveness, it reinforces it because some people, it's a matter of being able to put the pieces together. And if you've just come in and you go on YouTube based on one of our videos, or you hear me say something and you go and search it on YouTube or on the internet and it comes up with him speaking Arabic, you're gonna be like, but I thought they're not Muslims. So we always have to keep like reiterating and emphasizing to people that yes, it was during the times we were going through the schools. But before you get through your questions, which I'm really looking forward to and happy to take, and it's always good to speak to someone new because the questions that people ask and the perspective they're coming from can be the nugget or the key that somebody needs for that piece of the puzzle to fit in for them, you see. So we never take it for granted that, you know, people ask questions and ask it from a particular angle. But before you get into your questions, could you just let me know, like, where you based, you know, where you chiming from, and how did you come into Wu-Sabat, or what's your journey been like so far? How do you want me to refer to you so that, yeah, we can be a bit more
Okay,
familiar with each other?
my name is Demetrius Jones. I'm born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I now reside in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I've lived in, of course, I left for college. So
Hmm.
I lived in Indiana and Ohio. I played some arena ball and I've traveled.
Right.
So since about 2006, when I graduated from high school, you know, I left, came back, pursued the football dream,
Hmm.
and then, you know, started figuring life out. But I've been here for the past 3 years. And the way I came across it was crazy. I was going through you know, a real in-depth spiritual phase. Now, to give you a little history about my background, I grew up, you know, Christian. You can't tell neither one of my grandmas nothing about Jesus or
Yeah.
anything like that. And it's funny about almost a year ago when you all first came on, you had made a reference about the Bible and how it gets beat into you and stuff like that. And I instantly time traveled back to that because that's really, you know, in our community, that's the basis of it. You know what I'm saying? And
Sure. Hmm.
that's how I really grew up. But my spiritual inclination and it started to happen, you know, as a teenager because you had questions. It's like, okay, you know, I can't keep coming up in this church and I'm looking at this dude and I'm looking at myself and I'm like, you know, the only thing that you could tell me is don't pay attention to his color. And, you know, that was more of the hoodwink that the pastors or
Mm.
the other people would give you because, you know, I've come to find out that was really all they knew. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So
Hmm.
after not doing research and, you know, just not ever delving deep, you know, I found myself 18 years old, you know, making one of the business decisions in my life to go play college somewhere. And I just so happened to pick one of the most popular cat holistics university in the country,
Yeah.
which was Notre Dame. So I go from being in the city of Chicago pretty much all my life, besides traveling, going to camps, and getting to experience different stuff. And I immediately go into that. And so one of the first things you have to take is theology.
Right.
Besides the King James version and maybe the Apocrypha or stuff like that, I've never even, you know, knew that the Bible was even broken down and there were missing books. And, you
Right.
know, the way they see it is different. And then I get on campus and it's a touchdown Jesus sign right there. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what? Y'all really made this? So it was like the way church was, how I grew up, and the way church was there, you know, you could clearly see the distinct difference because of, you know, I guess you could say the praise and worship sessions and the the uh the theatrics, I guess you could say, that came with being in the Christian church, the shouting, the hollering, the entertainment part of it. So that was
Right.
like really culture shock to me originally. And by me being able to have the choice to pick my classes, I came across a course that was called the Other Bible. And
Right.
that's when it hit me. And that's since then it's been you know, a daily internal battle with continuing to go against what you feeling as opposed to what's comfortable to people. Because,
Mm.
you know, throughout the journey, I've lost, you know, a lot of meaningful relationships, you know, with family members, with friends, just over this belief system thing, you
Right.
know, written off as a conspiracy theorist and just, you know, what comes along with that. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So,
Yeah,
That's when
that's
it started to happen. And
right.
and during that time, as you pursuing something like I was, I was completely green to what was going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. But let's just say that experience, taking the risk to go do something else really opened my eyes up to everything. You kind of saw the good, bad, and the ugly with big business, and
Mm, okay, okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, one of the harsh realities for people to face is that you have to make the decision for your soul by yourself, you know? You come into the world on your own and
exactly.
you leave on your own. In between is where the influences come in from, as you say, the programming from whether it's your parents who got it from society or from their parents, you know,
Mary had a
yeah,
little lamb,
exactly.
little.
So you do get to a point when you start to take the stand for yourself rather than listen to other people that yeah, it gets to a point where you can become very isolated because you have to be serious about, like you said, what you're feeling inside. Your real being is telling you something, and then you have to contend with other people who don't know are telling you something different. And now you've got to wrestle between what you're feeling inside, what you're really about, and what somebody else is telling you. And the conviction of truth has to obviously triumphant in terms of you have to decide, are you really about the truth? And that's the question that, although someone might think what they're saying is truth, if you've never been challenged on it, then
Right.
how do you know
With
it's the truth? Yeah. So when
exactly.
you start to
With,
to kind of challenge it and trying to get to the bottom of, all right, do you want me to just accept and follow you blindly, or do you want me to be able to establish for myself whether or not it's truth? Ironically,
exactly.
the books they read, they haven't actually studied them. This is how do we know this? Because as you said in the beginning, we studied their book to the point where we know their book better than them. And that's how we know they don't know the book. Because when we start questioning and quoting the book and telling them, like, it actually says this in your book, it's
And they
like
don't even recognize it.
they
They
don't
don't even
recognize it.
recognize
Yeah.
it.
So one of the things it says is that when you meet that spirit, test it to see if it's from, you know, whatever term they want to use, God, Allah, the Most High, etc. So if he's there and he's protecting you and you're standing on his foundation, then you should have nothing to fear and be able to defend what you're trying to get other people to follow. And when they get to a point where they can't answer the question, then you realize that they failed the test. Um, and it's
Yeah.
not even in the sense of a competition or trying to prove that one is better than another person. It's just like, if I'm gonna rest my whole soul and life on this thing, I really need to know. I really need to know because we've been lied to so many times with so many
Yeah. Yeah.
distortions to the point where we've been let down. So,
Yeah.
it's like any situation you go through. If you've been let down many times, you take a cautious approach to the next time you find yourself in that situation. But yeah,
Exactly. And I
right.
think that's very well put, Ken. And I think that's the biggest thing that an individual has to do. You have to make up in your mind that in order to seek truth, you have to accept it. And that
Mm,
was the part that was so difficult because it's uncomfortable. It's like everything, you know. Well, for me, Ken, it was like as this started happening, I was like, man, I'm too old to be having first time feelings and things like that. And it's
yeah.
like, I'm educated. I think I'm smart. And then you have to come to the realization that
Right.
everything that you thought made you smart and made you different from other people, like, that's a tough pill to swallow. I have to come to the realization that I know nothing.
Right. And that's the
I
reality.
literally know nothing or
Yeah.
no thing, as you would put it.
Yeah.
And
And I think
that's,
that's a
you
real
know,
test of your character to be able to be humble enough to go, I'm willing to start again, and like I'm willing to be, be like, as they call it, born again. And just be able to look at and analyze and really look at what you've been doing and following, whether or not it was making sense. And we all had to do that. And I think that's where a person's ego, emotions, you really get tested to see if you're able to be humble, and yeah, to basically be able to learn again, or like as a baby, when a baby's
yeah,
born, they just they just soak it all up and learn, and you know fall
yeah,
down, they just get up.
you have to, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that because it's been this one video that I haven't been able to get, and it was the one class that it was when you were talking about the mental reservoir, and you were drawing the correlations between, you asked the questions like, where is your mind? Is it inside? And you was, the neurons and electricity of the brain
Mm,
and the information,
right.
coming in. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to find that video, but that was the turning point. And, because I watched you all when you first came on. And
Mm,
originally, when you resonate with something, you just do. But what
right.
blew my mind was that how can somebody like Dr. Malachi Z. York not be known? So at the time, I'm 34 at the time, and I'm like, how did I never hear about this? And
Mm,
so as I'm looking it up and I'm seeing, what the work that he's put in New York, and even some of the rappers in the entertainment business, like how has something like this been kept such a secret? Like, how did I not know about Tamaray? Like, how
mm,
can something like that happen? But you could tell me about Oprah, you could tell
mm-hmm.
me about all these other athletes, you could tell me about all of this, and it was like, I found that kind of weird. So as I was, I was not saying that I was rejecting the truth, but after the first couple of videos, before you all start the question and answers, throughout that time period, I had to really dig deep and actually do my research and
Mm,
see. And at every turn that I was, not saying to be misled, but I just kept challenging myself to dig deeper because, you know, the DNA explosion is real. When you
mm-hmm.
hear somebody's voice and you hearing it through something that he was doing in 1990 something, and it's like, and it's just over and
Yeah.
over just.
Yeah.
It's like,
I I know exactly what you're saying.
again, it was undeniable and it was
Yeah.
uncomfortable because what comes along with doing the research, you have to, compartmentalize your emotions. And one of the
Mm,
things that they do, that's part of their programming. They know
mm-hmm.
which type of stories are gonna pull on your heartstrings and that's gonna
Right.
make you, and that's what but you could go Bill Cosby, you could go, that's just
But yeah, we can
so
go
having to
through.
deal with the love, the hate, the anger, the
Mm,
disappointment, to see the videos and the research the case, to how they moved it around, who was involved. It was
mm,
cameras, but no camera.
right.
The video of the plea deal, to see somebody so disoriented and like, what did you say? And to see that the charges had nothing to do with anything.
This is it. I mean,
And
like you say, there was a concentrated effort, and what they think is that by the media completely trying to not, make people aware of this person, this great being, that it would just go away, But as you said, the more you research and it challenges you, like, are you somebody that just follows blindly? You don't check things out, do your own research? Or are you gonna be like, let me go and check it out? And this is the wrestling, even in their religious Bible, that they tell you that, Jacob had to wrestle with the angel, and then that's when his name got changed to become Israel, because that's, phonetically, when you start to look at that word, Israel is Israel, and Isra is
Hmm.
in the Quran, where they say that Muhammad made an Isra, which means to travel, and obviously El ties into the Elohim, or that's why they say he wrestled with an angel. But you are the angel or the Elohim, and you're wrestling with yourself, because when, like you say, your heartstrings being pulled, you really, that there are two sides of you. You have your agreeable and your disagreeable, and that the war begins because your agreeable is aligned to your ancestors that are in your DNA, and then you have the disagreeable that's aligned with your ancestors also in your DNA. So when you hear the war between the good and bad, or the agreeable and disagreeable, this becomes jihad in the Islamic religion, where they feel that that battle is one where you're taking on a battle on behalf of Allah, which doesn't make sense, because if you're mere mortal, how can you fight his battles? And why can't he, if he's so, as they say, when they go and fight the battle and they say Allahu Akbar, it's like, okay, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the biggest, the best, whatever. So why does he need you to fight his battles? I'm saying that to show you how the distortion of you wrestling within yourself to come to terms with making a decision of, does this sit well with me? And if your DNA explodes to the point where you feel it, and you know that you've overcome those disagreeable voices and ancestors that are trying to say, don't go there, don't listen to that. And eventually, when you do, and the truth hits you, then you definitely become free, because, like it says, the truth shall make you free. And with every little detail of what you've been programmed with all your life, you realize it's not by coincidence. There's so much concentrated effort to keep you from realizing and knowing who you are. So when you come across, the videos of the wrongful incarceration and misinformation, it's really designed for you not to search further, because you're thinking like this is true. And we know when you start to look at, COINTELPRO, and as you were saying, look at every single one of, whether there are celebrities, the minute you don't support their agenda, you become public enemy number one, and they, yeah, that's what happens. And but we're in the day and time where truth will prevail. Truth has to stand, against any falsehood. And if what they say is true, that the truth wins and truth always triumphs, then we know we're going to win, on all fronts. So yeah, I'm glad you were
We
able to
accept
get
we accepted.
get through that.
I forgot which one of the videos it was, but it was something that I just added to my mantra meditation, because as I continue to seek information, and I was able to classify the different generations of voices in my head on my program. I was like, whoa, this is getting, this is getting. And one of the things that I've came to just repeat, whether I'm at work, whether I'm doing stuff, is one of them was, we accept this fact that the originator in all success is truth and fact. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the last one of them,
Right.
but that's one of the ones that resonate. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that's one of the ones that's helped me, because up until this point, so Ken, I can only when you broke that down about the mental reservoir and how that's access, and
Mm.
the programming, and how you can be reprogrammed, and how you can get infected, and how you can be literally out your mind.
Mm.
It's not like I never heard that before, but to break it down so simple,
Mm.
to be able to understand that that's real. For anybody to say that they don't hear voices in their head, then you're in denial.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? You're
You
in
can't deny
denial.
the
But to
truth.
be
Yeah.
able to personify and train them, and do the necessary things to feed one and ward out the other is like that's been one of the most liberating things in the journey is to be like, okay, so the reason why if I smell certain stuff, I can hear somebody saying something, and then like I
Mm,
was fortunate enough to be around my grandfathers and
right.
get the verbal love to learn about their grandparents and to know about what they did and how they act. And up
Mm,
until that point, I never really even thought about piecing that together. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
the moment I did, it was like, wow. So a lot of the times where I think I've been calling on the name Jesus or something like that, it could have literally been my grandma.
Right.
Like literally. Like
Mm,
it's things that have happened in my life that can, like for instance, city championship game in Chicago.
yeah.
Last play of the game, I literally on TV, on camera, was like, Grandma, I need you now. I didn't call on God, I didn't
Yeah.
call on Jesus. And she had crossed over earlier that day. And that was the
Okay.
only thing that was on my mind. It was like, wow, like on this day. But right in that moment, the moment I asked, you know what I'm saying, 6 seconds left, and I'm talking about I'm defeated again. I'm falling down. I just throw the ball up. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And once I was able to do that, it's like, oh, it's simple. You have the duality of things in your nature that's
Mm,
just it's natural.
yeah. Yeah.
So that
Uh,
was one of th- that helped a lot,
mm.
because
It's once
I
you
never
know.
been the one to be like, yeah, I never been the one to be like, I want to go see a psychiatrist or I want to go, like I've always felt like I could heal myself and do
Mm,
the shadow work myself. But even with the wrong information, somebody telling you that it's something wrong with you because you hear voices like it's stupid.
mm.
And to know that it's a whole part of psychology and clinical programs and people making billions from lying to people, just telling them
Right.
that stuff. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
And here I
Right.
am on OSM Vision. I got the game for free. It's like it was,
Yeah,
it
I
was.
know. It's like the finding the truth is one thing, and then staying on it and staying on the path. That's where you got to put in the work, right? Where we all got to put in the work of, like you say, actually, this is real. Like silencing those voices, or working with them to be more, you know, correct. Transforming yourself, knowing that you have that power, and instead of channeling it to someone else or calling on these tones and names, and your ancestors, they know your intentions. They know, even though you're not aware that you're using the wrong names, but they will still come to your assistance. It's just that the programming that tries to deflect, or yeah, like don't allow you to have the full potency or the connection with them fully, so you can, enhance yourself. And yeah, once you do, you just have to start, yeah, knowing more about them, and then practicing, putting in what you're reading into practice. So yeah, but yeah, you said you had a list of questions. We can, yeah, go through. I mean, the mental reservoir, yeah, it's amazing, because it's like, if you really start breaking down things in an energetic way, you start to see that you are receiving and sending messages constantly, so
Non-stop, whether you
yeah,
acknowledge it or not.
or not. Yeah.
So that's why I would like to start as a can.
Mm,
So basically, in so many words, we have to reverse engineer our brain in our programming because the the unbeknownst to the other programming is so far deep
mm,
that you gotta just, you know, give it back. I mean, obviously you can't start all over, but you have to literally like reverse engineer
that's right.
your mental reservoir in order to elevate.
Right.
so
Yeah,
to speak.
yeah. Because if you look at anything in terms of progression, even if you just look at technology and look at society and look at where you've gone from, say, just using a simple phone that would send and receive calls, right? Um, it had to get to a point where the phone itself, okay, so in technology, you have kind of two main streams. You have software and you have hardware. And in the computing world, people used to say, well, which one is better or which one is going to be most important? And you had people who would say the hardware because the hardware is the actual, like, the hard drives, the chips, the processor, the board, um, and like, all the hard stuff. But the other argument or the counter argument would be no, it's software because when you have the physical computer, it's no use without the software to drive it. So this is where software became more prominent over time, but they had to work together because you still need the fastest processors, but then
Hmm.
the software is what you use for doing, the applications. And so I'm saying that to say, if you look at a phone, when we got to smartphones, this is where you can now just download. You can download apps. Anything you think of, anything you want to do, you just download it. So for someone who is not using a smartphone, they don't have the ability to reprogram that hardware, that phone that they have. Whereas when you have a smartphone, you can just, oh, you need something to help you find the way, direction. You just download the sat nav, or you need something to help you with your banking. You just download it. Everything you need, you just download. So that shows you that you can constantly reprogram that device. Then when you look at yourself, it's the same. Your physical body is the hardware, which you can touch and and then your mind is the software because your mental can be changed. And so everyone that is a visionary, a thinker, they will all agree on one thing, that you can always do whatever you want to do by putting your mind to it, applying your mind to it. And they will say, you know, uh, a mind is a terrible thing to waste because
Right.
you're not using it. It's just there. You're not accessing all that information that becomes information. So it's clear
Right.
that people can just change their mind, and that's it. Like, you may be doing something that it's not giving you the best results. And all you have to do, just say, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop hanging with those people. I'm going to stop eating that thing. I'm going to stop, smoking, drinking, whatever it is that is causing you not to perform at your best. And all you have to do is reprogram your mind. We say your mind because you know, until you realize that you're a multi-dimensional being that's tapping into that mental reservoir where all thoughts are kept. Um, and in religion and say Islam, they will tell you that there's a place. This is called the where the records are kept, Ilion, or where the Akasha records are kept. And that's
Right.
just literally telling you that, anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. And they all the best teachers are unanimous in that no matter what, you can do anything you apply your mind to, regardless of who you are. So yeah, it's a very good realization that you can tap into that mental reservoir and pull out anything you want, positive or negative, and then utilize it for your own betterment. So yeah.
And adding on to that is uh in reference to chanting at 3, 6, 9, and 3, is that
It's 3-9. It's 939. Sorry, yeah.
9, 3? Okay, 939.
Mm.
Is how important is that to your continued connection to all your network? Like,
Mm.
is that one of the things that you do to enhance it? I mean, I see you drink water every hour on the hour. I
Yeah.
see that you like I know there's a, and I know it could be different for everybody, but in terms of doing the routine things to get you in a rhythm of a
Mm.
state, is that one of the things that the chants allow you to do?
Mm. Yeah, I mean the chants kind of ground you and remind you all the time. And when you study what you're actually saying in the chant, if you didn't do anything else and you did that consistently, you're giving reverence to all the ancestors, the Panatharu, and you're connecting with them because you are part of them. This is why we say, you are part of the all. And as you do that, you even the
Hmm.
ones that you do where they're helping to, free the master teacher. There's so many things you're doing in there. You're giving reverence to the females, the males, that you cover a lot. So, but at the same time, sometimes people forget that you are everything that is, as in, some people will just have like, we're not saying crystals are not good or talismans or, all these prayers and things, but you are those things. So wherever you are, as long
Right,
as
right.
you're tuned in, it's like, some people say, wish me luck. But that's like how we don't accept luck because you are responsible for what happens to you. You see, so
Exactly.
as long
Yeah.
as you recognize even just your thoughts and intentions of saying you are that being or whatever it is you're trying to utilize externally from yourself, um, if you recognize it's you. So, okay, let me put it another way. Now, I'm not trying to discourage or say don't chant, but like if you say you are the chant and if thinking about it, thinking about the chant and your intentions are to do it, but you're in a situation where you can't do it because you may be at work or I don't know in an environment that you can't do it. Can you think it? Yes, you can. So
Mhm, you can.
if you didn't if you didn't actually say it aloud, you're thinking it, so you're still doing it, Um, but
Okay.
yeah, but there are
I
sciences to it.
definitely understand that.
Mm,
The affirmation is that's my go-to. That's my favorite.
yeah.
One of the first things I did after I finally, well, this was, I got the book last year.
Mm.
The fast
Fast
track,
track, yeah. Spiritual journey,
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
So the that being in the back after consuming all of that information, like that was like one of the first things that I took notes and I wrote down and I
Hmm.
memorized it. And
Right.
that's just like my go-to. Whenever I feel, anxiety or if anything, is just
Mm.
I'm in the divine love of the all expanding and all
That's
divine
right.
love is in me. Like you can't think and say that and not get,
Exactly, exactly.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that that I get, and I guess that was more my question, Shakin. Like, does the rhythm and the consistency of the chants help connect more to the mental reservoir? Is what I'm saying. Not like I know it's not like it's detrimental or it has to happen. I'm just
Yes, it
saying
does.
in terms
Mm.
of on
Yes,
a
it
daily
does.
basis.
Yes, it does.
Okay, okay.
Because sound is a vibration, is a frequency, and it never stops. So when you say something, although it decays, it is still going, it's still resonating and still going on. And it can travel throughout the cosmos. So this is why it's so important to mine, as the master put it, mine the jewels of your soul. Mine your mind for the jewels of your soul. And be careful of what you're thinking and what you're saying, because once you say it, it can't be unsaid. Once you think it, it can't be. So it's almost like,
Woo!
when you start to really monitor yourself and these higher consciousness, then you start to realize that you start to transcend the mundane kind of low vibrations and the things that people are programmed to be preoccupied with, you know? So even just like if you just think positive thoughts continuously, that in itself keeps your vibration at a high level, because the last thought you have before you translate or leave here has the impact of really propelling you higher. So
Mm,
this is why it's important that if you're cursing or using a tone or doing something, and then let's say at that particular moment your last thought was a low vibration, it's going to hold you down, as opposed to if you had a
mm.
positive one that's going to propel you higher, you see. So yeah, it's so important to put into practice. The whole culture is designed to give you protection and to, as you say, enforce or reinforce. This is why when we lived on Tamaray and on our own land in Eterton, in Georgia, Shady Dale Road, the whole environment was set in a way that, you wake up. It's almost like, imagine when you live in a Muslim country and you wake up and you hear them like the call to prayer, the Adhan. And then it's just like after a while, it's just in you. So we had, you know, you see the environment just had the deities around us and our ancestors. You could hear the Om chant. It was like when you saw someone, you're gonna greet them with Rahubat. It's like you just live it. And this is what we're doing now. We're rebuilding as communities. And within the
Yeah,
communities, you can then be amongst like-minded people
yeah,
and you can all share and practice, you know, the tenets of our culture. And if everyone's doing it, it's gonna be harder for you not to do it, because it's kind of like, this is what we do at 9 o'clock. Everyone does the chant, or
right,
3
right, right,
p.m. You
right,
see,
right.
so
Yeah,
we need to
it's
get
more
back
of
to.
I think especially, you know, a lot of us coming from urban backgrounds and just not realizing how deep the programming is, we are so disconnected in so
Hmm.
many different ways that the normal day in the Nuwapian life is like foreign. You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
So
yep.
it's like some people, the comments you see, they think you all robots. Like they think you don't have style or swag. When you
Yeah.
started to dress to be outside the garments, they're like, "Hold on, what's wrong with him? Is he a clone?" It's like, no, this is
Exactly.
not. This is
Yeah,
not religion. We
that's
don't
right.
just pick a day and a time when we're gonna pretend to be in the word, or we're gonna
Right,
pretend to preach, and then once it's over and we get the money, all right, next week we'll pick it up. Go do
right,
whatever you want.
right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
And
So
to be fair, not everyone is pretending. Some just don't know because they don't know. And
yeah, that's true. Some people are honestly still seeking and
right.
just believing and not just unaware.
Yeah,
I've been one of those before. I was,
right.
you
But there's
know,
that little voice you hear all the time inside you that keeps telling you, like this doesn't make sense, or what about this, and what if that, and there's more to this, and then that voice will lead you
yeah,
to find out.
literally.
Mm.
As I was preparing for this, I was talking to my little brother, and then we was laughing about how we enjoyed the choir, we enjoyed the upbeat, but the moment the preacher opened up that book and started talking that talk, we used to fall asleep and we would get pinched and thumped in the head, and it was like,
Yeah.
like really, it's kind of been in our DNA not to listen. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So it's
right.
just in
It wasn't
in, in
resonating.
retrospect, it's
Mm.
like it was always something that
Yeah.
was like never really fully there, but you know,
Like you say,
I
it's like
am
going to
great.
a
I'm
concert.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
but I'm grateful for my mothers, my grandmothers, my uncles, because part of part of the culture is kind of the church, which is sad to say now, coming to the realization of the programming, but that's kind of like You know,
Yeah, it's kind of the
what's supposed to
foundation.
be sacred for what was supposed to be sacred for us, and where the community was supposed to be, I
Hmm.
guess you could say. But if it wasn't for me immersing myself into it and trying to believe, I don't think I would definitely be where I am now. I'm actually finding it more easier to reverse
Yeah, I
engineer
mean, it
because
has its
I've been
purpose. It has its purpose. Um, it will clean you up to a point where at least, you're not cursing, you're not supposed to be cursing, doing all the things like excessively drinking, smoking. You learn discipline and respect to a certain degree, but it's a stepping stone towards knowing the truth, So um, you can't knock it for those that are sincere and looking for the truth, because after a while, it won't hold them or sustain them anyway. Because, like you say, you're going to be like, looking at the images around you, you're going to be like, we've been hearing the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where it's like, it's not moving you. It's just like, it's literally dead, because you can go to church after 10 years of not going to church, and you will just fit right back into the same routine that you were hearing 10 years ago,
literally,
you know?
literally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to be going somewhere and somebody telling you that you're going to hell.
Yeah. And
And I
that's what
said that to
happens.
say because I haven't physically been going to church for it's been about 8 years,
Right.
unless it was for one of my family members crossing over. But part of my family on my mother's side is married into a church. So I got a cousin that's a pastor and a cousin in my mom's generation that married a pastor, and that became our family church.
Mm. See,
So, the questions,
the point for church, it was really originally for people to gather in communities, as you say, and it had some good principles in terms of, looking out for each other, and, that kind of thing, especially when you started to look at when you had to go through racism and all the disenfranchising of our
yeah, the
people.
Jim
So,
Crow and
right. So
yeah,
it was a community thing. But then the bit that didn't make sense was the slave master telling you to worship the same slave master that put you in that position. It's like that doesn't make any sense. So
yeah,
yes,
that
after
that was that always seemed kind of odd to me, especially watching videos and watching somebody preach and he go get in a police escorted car and people get hosed and dogs sicked on them. I'm like,
right.
whoa.
But yeah, let's see if we can try and get through some of your questions, if you can remember them, or if you got them to hand.
Yeah, I got
Because
him.
we could literally talk all day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
got him. I got him right here.
okay,
So, in terms of when we're talking about the lineage of the Bible,
right.
Nanar is Enki's son,
And Lil Son,
is Enlil's son.
Toa.
So in
Yes,
the Bible, when it makes the reference to Nana sin, that is the reference
right.
that is being made.
Yes,
That
because
that
yeah. Mm-hmm. Go on ahead. I didn't want to cut you.
okay. So in Hebrew, what does that translate to?
Which what does the word Nana or
Yeah, or is Nana Hebrew?
no, because remember that even though we're using Hebrew in relating to what people call the Old Testament, um, but really it's just the five, what they call the five books of Moses as well, right?
The
Which is
Torah,
literally the Torah, right? Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers.
number.
Yeah. So even though people say Hebrew, it's taken from the Enuma Elish, right? The Enuma
Right.
Elish is not Hebrew, right? So it starts off, if you this is why that's the cuneiform tablet. So it's in cuneiform.
Okay.
So when you start to read it, it starts off saying went on high, right? So it's telling you that this story starts off with these beings that were on high or outside of the planet that could
Right.
be
Okay.
in crafts or other planets or constellations. So they're really telling
Right.
you about when, you know, Enki and Enlil and the sons of Anu were basically given assignments. And it was during the time they were looking for gold. And so Enki was responsible for, because the planet, even the name Enki, right? His original name is Ea, Ea, yeah, Ea. And because remember, he's partly reptilian from his mother Id, who's a draconian. So the planet was a water planet. So he was in the water as a draconian being, and he was building cities and doing many things on the water. So by the time that Genesis story comes in, and they're saying the new Melish is saying went on high, is talking about okay, so the craft were hovering above the planet, which was still a water planet, and then they had to do um the terraforming to remove the dust cloud and to kind of like separate what they call the firmament, which is the water from the water that was taken out of the sea to bring the land up, right? That had to go somewhere, because if you think about when we say energy cannot be destroyed on water, so where did that water go to bring the land, right? So this is why even in Genesis, the whole story, when we asked the religious world the question, because it dawned on us that the story is being relayed in the third person tense. It says that, in the
Exactly.
beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and
Yeah.
it was void, and there was no land, and it was, the deep, which is dealing with water. So it was like, well, who's the person talking? It had to be beings that
Yeah.
were already in the waters looking up to say that something was hovering above, the waters. And so to go back to your question, is in the cuneiform. So some words are left untranslated when they get into the Hebrew, just as some
Right.
words are left untranslated when they get into what they're calling the English. And if you
Right.
study and make the link between the original like writings, then you can start to see how they leave certain words out when it gets into what people are calling English, you see. So yeah, so sin gets put into in the translation, but you don't know that it's talking about Nana or Nana sin, you see. And then when you study
Oh, okay.
Genesis properly, you see that it said that after Cain had killed Abel, the next son to replace him was known as Enos. And he said that Eve got this son from the Lord, yeah. And it's like, okay, the replacement, but they don't tell you, like, because when you're saying Lord, it's not saying who that is, because the minute you've grown up in religion, any word you hear like Lord, like the Almighty, like the Most
It's
High, what
literally like changing from a different person,
person to a
but
different
it's
person,
not
right?
saying that. To us,
Exactly,
it's just like,
Yahweh.
and the Lord said to
Yeah,
him, and the
exactly.
devil showed up with the angels. And then this Lord said,
That's
like,
right.
what is
And
this?
then Yahweh said, and this, yeah, so it's because they don't realize that they were talking about these different beings, and the whole concept
Right,
of
right, right.
angels and God being in heaven. And it's like today, it's kind of like people really have to contend with, because when you were saying extraterrestrials, they're like, and they ran ahead, of course, and made movies and named the beings aliens. So it really cuts off the connection between you recognizing that when you're saying angels, you're talking about extraterrestrials and beings that were here
Right,
way, way
right.
before. So you have to now go and study the Anunnaki story about Enki and Enlil.
Mhm.
So Enki was, charged with being over the earth, over the project of mining the gold, and then Enlil was in charge of the skies to transport the gold from the skies to
Right.
Nibiru to take it back.
Right,
Yeah,
because gold is a conductor.
that's right.
It was being used to repair.
Right, so
Okay.
exactly,
Because
exactly.
that's one of the things, again, it's like obviously I care about my family, my friends, and all of that stuff. And coming to these realizations and these truths, you really see that it's really a spell. Like,
Mm,
it's easy to be like, okay, what's the first thing you learned in preschool? Your ABCs, your one, two, threes, and they taught you how to what? How to spell.
that's right.
And to come to the realization that somebody can hear truth, you could feel truth, but for some reason you would go back and do none of the stuff, but you would acknowledge the truth and you would
Mm,
say, I feel it, it's real, but you would go right back to what it is. It's like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it didn't really start hitting me until like the past few months. Like, it's literally a spell, it's a ghost spell, it's a
That's
book of
right.
like it's so much in your face
That's the
of
thing
what it
about it. It's
is.
right in your face. And that's
Yeah, that's how
why,
you. But
yeah.
that's how you know it's a spell, again. It's like it's literally right there. The spell is so strong that you look at the book and they tell you this is the gospel. This is the ghost spell. Like
Yeah,
welcome.
that's right. And like you say, you have to literally re-engineer it. You have to reprogram it. So it's like you've got to think, okay, you were taught to write from left to right. So now you got to think about writing from right to left. You know, you're given this word, God, and like, because it literally says the devil will make evil fair seeming. So something that's bad, that's not good for you or disagreeable, they're going to tell you is great and good for you. So you've got to be able to be like, let me try and turn everything backwards and then see. And when you start to, you realize that, yeah, like when you turn the word God backwards, you get the word dog. That's no coincidence, because when you go back into like where they got the stories from, the dog
Hmm.
that they're referring to would be in ancient Egypt, Anubis or
Anubis.
Anupu.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And but then when you look at the dog today, you'll be like, why is there this phrase that the dog is a man's best friend? It's like,
Right.
where did that come from? And then you start to
Yeah.
see,
Who
yeah,
does that resonate with?
who does that resonate with? And all
Yeah,
these the
why do
little
you like your
pieces.
dog to jump in your bed and lay on your couch and be with you? Like that's kind of different. You know what I'm
Yeah, this
saying?
is like, and you start to see the natures and be like, okay, that doesn't really resonate with us. But then you start to see the significance when you look at the Human Genome Project and the DNA and how it ties into some people having
Yeah.
the Homo
And I'm glad
simian
you
and
brought that up
the
again.
canine.
So
Mhm.
the where they stole that from, um, because I looked into Maya philosophy heavily before I was
Mhm.
fortunate enough to come across this information. So I was tapping into the esoteric things in the Maya philosophy, but it wasn't, it wasn't broken down. Like I didn't
Mm.
do enough shadow work. I tried to go straight to that to understand that, and I didn't. But the role of Anubis as far as the transcending through the afterlife, and like that was that's the role
That's
of
right.
what he was.
Yeah.
Right.
He
Okay.
was actually, he's like giving you an orientation of the afterlife, what you do, what you don't do, and how, just like when you go to college for the first time or whatever, you get like someone takes you around and like, this is the place
Yeah.
where you go for this and you go there for that, and
Yeah.
it's like they
So
turn
Anubis
that
was
into
given
a bad thing.
the addendum
Right.
of the afterlife.
That's
Okay.
right. And guiding you through this is what they call the underworld and so on. But that became the spell again to turn it into you being afraid, because it's what you said before about the spell being so in your face, but even though you know the truth, you have this programming that you fight against it. And that's because when you start to look at the fact that, okay, someone is teaching you to be afraid. It's the fear. It's the fear that makes people don't let go, because they fear that
Really.
they're gonna go to hell, because that's what you've been programmed with from the minute you accepted it. Like,
Hmm.
and remember, it's not just done by words. There's a ritual that takes place when you go what they're calling to um, baptism, or even like your shahada in Islam, or doing the bar mitzvah, and words are said.
Catechism.
Right, words are said. You're dipped into water. So the fear of you going to hell, and realizing that if you let this go, because remember that many people don't have an alternative, because if they've never heard of Wu-Sabat or haven't come across this knowledge, then they're going to be like, there's nothing else. And I'm afraid to go to hell. So just in case, you know, they take the chance. They say, like, let me just make sure that, you know, if they're wrong, then I'm still safe. So they have one foot in and one foot out. But you really
Yeah,
have to
that's
denounce and
funny. That's
renounce.
funny you say that.
Yeah.
Funny you say that. That was one of the uh quotes. I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Like,
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So, yeah, a lot of people are afraid to let go of the crutch they've been holding, even though if you start to break it down and kind of decipher it, it doesn't give them anything anyway. There's, apart from some kind of faith and hope, which you can't prove like it's going to happen.
yeah, it's
So
you definitely get a general temporary feeling to,
mm,
like obviously it's something that inside of you that if certain tones and music and words are played that you could get
mm,
something, but it don't give you enough to fly out of there on it. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you know what
it's
I'm
the
saying?
it's the
So,
music, it's the soul, the music, the vibration of the
yeah,
music.
yeah,
Because when you actually watch like a lot of sort of Christian ministries, most of it is the music, it's the gospel,
yeah,
but they don't
yeah,
realize they're giving all that energy into these beings and calling on these tones. Yeah, but it's really the
yeah, that,
music. And you see
yeah,
what happens the minute, you know, people leave the church and go into, say, the music industry. I'm talking about people that came through the church. You look at most of those people
right.
like Whitney Houston or whoever, like the minute they leave the church, they abandon all of that. It just becomes like, it's just a ticket to get to the point of, and then it's kind of like they sell out because it's about the money, and it's about, the industry. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
So,
and you not even realize that the programming that you're getting is coming from this source anyway.
yeah.
So it's I mean, I
I mean, with the
chased a
truth,
football dream for quite some time, and
yeah.
from where I'm from, you either you rap, play ball, so it's like
Yeah. I
my
mean, those are the
brothers,
ways.
and it's when you do certain stuff, there are certain doors that you could get into.
Hmm. But
I
doing it,
just,
getting into them with your eyes open is the key, because then you can't be easily manipulated or tricked and
hmm
conned. But if you're just chasing a dream as a star, and you just see the glitter, then you end up in a situation where you're being taken advantage of. So it's
oh
good
yeah,
to,
they got
yeah,
they got plenty of that for you in the entertainment industry.
yeah.
And I know it is crazy how an hour then went by just just that fast.
Yeah, just like that.
And
Yeah.
I know you busy, so Ken. We definitely have to do this again. But I'm in the Telegram group. I'm the one that's always asking for the movies to watch in
Okay.
relation to what's
Yeah.
going on.
That's good.
So
Yeah, we have a
I'm
whole
a
list.
I'm a visual learner, and it's something about the with knowing that some of these people know the truth and how they decide to implement it through production, I find that interesting. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Just like, for
Yeah, I
instance, I
mean,
never watched Lilo and Stitch before in my life. I was
right.
helping one of my coworkers move his bed in. He got twin boys and they watching it. Now the timing of me carrying the bed into the apartments again,
Mm.
it's a part in there where it's a galactical community and
Mm.
everybody is being radioed in like via cell phone and they talking about a species that got unleashed and I just as I'm like kind of
Hey
I'm like
man,
what did that just say?
it was
Like,
always
I'm
there. If you go back and watch some of the cartoons you were watching as a child, you'd be amazed how much information was being pushed down cartoons because it's trying to get to the children at a young
exactly.
age as well,
Yeah,
you see.
once, yeah, it's the
Yeah,
programming. So
yeah,
to speed this up, I've been having a hard time with getting my hands on etymology dictionaries or certain versions of them. It's almost like somebody trying to take them and burn them nowadays.
yeah. They have an online version, and some of the online versions you have to pay a subscription. But yeah, you can use the online. There's Etymon online. That's a decent one that you can use. But yeah, I mean, really, the studying aspect is so important, but people just believe, remember, again, the story that somebody came and died for your sins. So it means that you don't have to put in the work. You know, they've done it all. And there's no way of you verifying or proving that. So that's a great, great deception.
Hmm.
So people don't take the time to, like you said, they just read excerpts from passages in English of many translations. And so even when somebody has taken the time to say, look, I'm going to translate it for you so you can actually learn and see it, they still don't do it, So the master teacher went about translating the Bible, as they call it, or the Torah, the Injil, the Quran, the Psalms, um, the ancient Egyptian book of the dead, or what coming forth by day. Name it. He translated it all to say, look, don't believe me, check it out for yourself. And you don't have
Check
an
it
excuse
out.
anymore. So he took us through the schools. And we realized when we went through the schools that a lot of these people are just faking it. Because we lived it
Yeah.
and we studied it. So when they come across us now, it's like, look, we're here to help you. But if you don't want to accept it, or you don't want to take the help, cool, do you. But if you're really sincere, you have to contend with the truth, and the truth will always just be there in your face to the point where you
Yeah,
either deny it and lie to yourself.
religion is big business. Once you get past it, if you look past the veil and you understand that it's big business, and that's what
Yeah,
if you can apply that to it, then it gives you a better understanding. Like,
sure.
okay,
A better overstanding. You
ooh,
got to be over it.
yeah, overstanding or
Yeah, yeah,
understanding.
yeah. Or
Correct, correct.
understanding. Yeah, tour. All right. I mean, I don't
Hey,
mind
brother,
taking a few more questions. I know we've gone over time, but
I just leave with one more again. I know
okay.
you're a busy guy over there.
Yeah. Today is our new year, of
The
course. So, you know, our new year starts today. The master teacher's birthday, Partner Babyanun's birthday today. So,
Oh, today's his birthday?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's another thing I got to continue to tap into.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
The fact that I could speak a little bit of Spanish, right? And
Okay.
8, 9, and 10, November, December, like that don't add up. So that was like until
Yeah.
one of the videos that was talking about it, it was like I already knew that in
You
my
already
head that
knew.
that it added up. But
Yeah.
still just, you know what I'm saying? Like the fact that when you say a spell is really real. So that
Yeah.
uh
But the good thing
because
about
I
having
think
those
that
skills, like speaking Spanish, is that many people need to read the books in the different languages as well. So, it's a skill that can be utilized within the community because You know,
Yeah,
we want the books in all the
you're
languages,
absolutely correct.
but
It was a video you did. It's been some time, but you just basically broke down the phonetics and how Bible could be babble, and you changed it
that's
around
right.
like it's literally meant to confuse you,
That's right. That's
to
right.
to
Yeah.
to do what it does. But the last question would be, Sakin, is when you was breaking down the three different Jesuses that they implement into the
Mm,
Bible,
right.
the Ba Jesus, right?
Mm,
So obviously the Bible give away where they're getting all this knowledge from, because everybody going into Egypt, they just don't break down what the mystery schools were doing. They don't
yeah.
tell you that you was an alchemist, and like that's what they mean when they was going in to get
Right.
those knowledges. So
Yeah.
so the Ba Jesus is the one that they try to refer to as the sorcerer and all that. He's the one that's responsible for bringing Kabbalah.
Right. So this is the funniest thing as well. This Jesus thing, because it's such a predominant aspect of Christianity and religion that that's the kind of like the ultimate in the spell. Because when you say Jesus, right? I remember the master saying, don't we all believe in Jesus, right? And he said that in a way that you can have a Jesus, but which Jesus are you talking about, right? Because everyone's got a Jesus, right? So the Christians, they have a Jesus. There's a Roman and Greek guy. The Muslims have they call him Jesus. Then you'll have the Muslims will say Isa, and then those who say Mosism, or the Hebrews who say Yeshua. Now, we know that those are stories taken from our one, which in if we're Egyptians and we say we're from ancient Egypt, we know that's Ha or Haru or Hiru, or which became
Right,
Horus,
depending on what language that
depending
you
on,
say the name in.
right, not just the language, but we like ours is real. Yours is not real, because ours we've proven existed, because you say you've dug up and found the bones and the skeleton and stuff off of the beings, Osiris and these beings in ancient Egypt.
Yeah. So
But
if
if you
that's
find
true, then
one
that
and
means the
they
family is
related,
true.
they're family. So right, but now we say yours doesn't exist apart from in a story or in a book. And when we quote and go according to the book, according to the Bible, according to the Quran, this is what it's saying. And it says Bar Jesus. When you go and look at the word Bar, it's saying son of Jesus. You see, so yeah, so we know that they're really referring to the story of Osiris, Isis, and Seth, etc., that gets washed down into the Bible. And then you have the New Testament, which is a 2,000-year version, where you have people write plays like, um, Josephus Flavius Piso and his family. They just wrote
Ken, do you
plays.
know that? Do you know not many people even know that? Don't you say that, they be like, what? It's like
Exactly. Because they haven't taken the time to research. But you can just Google it, and like they don't even want to do that. So some people just
yeah.
like to be under the spell because it's easy. You don't have to do anything. You just live your
No.
life however
But
you
then
want.
even being under it, it's like, okay, if I believe in Jesus, then I mean I believe in reincarnation, because he's somebody that came here that's gone, that's supposed to come back. It's
Right.
like even when you break that down, the Bible sneakily makes you be a cannibal, because how it tells you to eat meat. It's like you think you're not accepting this stuff, but if you're saying you believe in it, then you believe in a whole bunch of stuff, because that's literally what it is. And just
That's right. That's right.
when you just get simple on just breaking it down, it's like, why would somebody send their son to go do something. First of all, that's the problem with that. Like, who would send their son?
Yeah,
Like,
but people don't see that. They're like, there's trouble at the door, and you're gonna go like, son, you go look and take care of it. It's just it doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. But if you're someone that remember this, that you're also this is how you know it's programming because every avenue that you could take, such as asking questions to clarify something that doesn't make sense, they will tell you to not question because questioning is you're blaspheming by questioning. So it's like every angle they got covered. So I'm not allowed to ask questions. I'm just to believe and accept what you say without proof. And as long as I do that, I'm okay. But if I say, no, let's try and talk about this. Let's find out. Like, why are you saying there's only one God? When you're reading it in the actual language, it's saying there's more than one, it's plural. Like just simple things. Like, why does he need to, why does he need you to love him? Because the people, that's another thing, Christianity. Oh,
or
he
worship
wants
him.
us to or worship him or do anything. It's like, is he deficient in anything? So
Well, like, how does he get tired after 6 days?
we can go on and on and on, and it's like they don't want to
When
address
you
that. They
said
would just
that a couple months ago, again, when you said that a couple months ago, that was like,
yeah, it's like they don't. It's like if he can do it in 1 second, why take 6 days?
hmm.
Because
But I
it
mean,
has a limit to his power then. Because
yeah,
if you can do it in 1 day, you can do it in a second. If you
yeah.
can, why
But
didn't you?
I think
So
that's the beauty in all of this because it's been so much just, you know, like how you
yeah,
say the master teacher used to tell y'all, you got to turn yourself inside out. If only it was just that easy as saying it, but when you really understand what that means, turn yourself inside out, it literally means turn yourself inside out. Like you got a decision to really make if
yep,
you trying to make the grade and
hmm,
you want to respond to it because it's a lot of responsibility that come with it.
right.
But it's,
But
you know,
we like to say we're God, we're the ancient Egyptian gods, and we like okay, show me. It's good to say, yeah, we're
yeah.
gods and goddesses, and we're this, and like, okay, cool.
But
Uh,
you got to think like one, behave like
right,
one. First of
exactly.
all, you got to eat like one, and that's another thing that
Hmm.
along with the spell that I think our people struggle with because we've been taught to think that something that's really killing us is called soul food. Yeah, it's called soul food, meaning it's taking your soul, but ain't nothing soulful about congested heart
That's right.
failure, diabetes, high blood pressure, and it's like
Yeah.
the way that they could be slipped in to be the standard of what you do is just,
Yeah, because it's easy to talk. People can preach all day. You can just go to church or whatever, a sermon, and you just hear talking, preaching. You don't get opportunity to say, okay, let's stop, let's ask some questions. Can you, explain that? Let's explain it. Let's dissect it. Because it sounds good because people can be very charismatic, they look good as they wear, bows and ties or suits or whatever and look sharp and they just give motivational speak they do motivational speaking and it's like okay, or play some good positive music that gets you hyped, but that's no different than going to a club. So when you say okay, let's put all the emotional stimulants aside, let's actually reason and use our minds and dissect what you're saying, does it make sense? Then that's when you realize the intellect, it's like they don't really know. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it out of habit or because, moms did it or, grandma did it. So you don't want to change. So you have a generation after generation repeating the same thing and thinking they're going to get a result that is different. But, that's one of the definitions of madness, doing the same thing over and over again,
that's one of
expecting a
insanity
different
to think
result.
that.
Yeah. So,
Something else just came to mind, Sakin. Yesterday you were well, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, during the Access Anything, you were reading uh I forgot if it was a man from Planet Risk or my brother the extraterrestrial, but it came a point
mm,
in the book where
it was
he
the
was
message.
talking to somebody
Yeah.
and he said that the time will be after the government get on my heels in
Okay.
2000 AD.
Yeah, yeah. That's the reading on the website online. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, did you get it? I can show you now. So you can read it afterwards. Um, but yeah, basically it's the reading on the website. If you go to let me see if I can quickly. Right. So from the homepage right here,
Uh-huh.
you can click on here where it says the Black Messiah, and then that takes you to the Q&A with Yanun, this section. And then when you scroll down, it's this reading right here, the one with the eyes. So if you click on there.
Oh, okay. That's why you was reading from your cell phone.
Right, yes, right. And
Okay,
you
so
have all these
when
other readings as well. If you haven't seen these, you can go on these. But yeah, it was this one. Yeah.
okay, so when and what year did he write that?
Oh, this came out in 2025. But I mean, the information that is on there goes back, like it talks
Oh, okay,
about. Yeah,
okay.
this is what I was reading. See, these are the
Got you, got
riskings.
you. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, this is what I was reading from.
okay,
All right.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you, got you, got you, got you. And I understand it now because I think, especially as for right now, it's not a secret what you should be doing. Each one teach one, like however, what capacity it is that you can help, you help. I think that especially for you know, for people in my so-called generation and or younger, because of not knowing how much program that you are, for me, I think me getting the books that are relative to the times of now
Mm,
and just like this was written in 1970, 1971. Like a lot of this stuff that I'm seeing as I continue to research, like it's like he been
yeah.
calling this stuff out for so long,
So
for
long,
so
so
long to the
long.
point where it's again like like the whole conscious community, the whole scientific community, and astrological community are using his stuff. This is like a lot of the information is his stuff, and I'm just I don't
I
know,
know,
man.
but they don't
It's
show him or
it's
don't give any
it's
credit because of who he
it's
is. Yeah,
it's so mind-boggling to look at the research, to talk about the how they thought they named that Comet Bennett and just
yeah,
all the stuff that from every time he released something, even to now, what you all been releasing, it's like you go check out or see anything else, it's like, oops, they came out with another truth. Come on, we got to throw something
that's
else out
right,
there.
that's
Like
right. But it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna be so rapid they're not gonna be able to do that. But it's funny because even when we put out a video, we see other people literally just like as soon as we put it out, they do the exact same thing.
we can't,
Um, yeah,
you can't make it up.
yeah, yeah.
You right, you can't make it up, but that's little do they know is that it's only so long you could take from the source.
That's
And
right.
people are gonna wake up and be like, okay, you give me these little videos and these good talks, but okay, where's your language? Where's
They,
the science?
they,
Where's the
right.
and I think that that's what, that's gonna
Yeah,
be the difference because
that's right.
the information is great, but sometimes you can get so sucked into the information, or I guess what I'm saying, I've just seen his information empower other people to the point where I'm looking and I'm like, now that I've been coming aware, I'm like, I know where you got that from.
Mm-hmm. And the
Like
thing
I
is,
know where you got that from. I
yeah,
know where you got that from.
you've touched on another very important aspect. This is where I remember him saying years back in the day that because people were like, this one's copying your information. And it's like, it's cool, it's fine. It doesn't matter. As long as the information and the truth gets out, that's all that matters, because eventually they're gonna run out, as you say, because it's gonna be traced to the source. And he's gonna be able to keep going and touch on things that others can't do. So it was like we saw this also come to pass, where it was like, wow, like when you're that generous to the point where you don't care, it's like, fine, let them take it, let everybody, because people use words and things that he came up with, like overstanding, or um, Nubian instead of using, Africa. Certain things that people just do, but they don't realize it comes from him. This is why I was like, when I was looking at these other people online, I was like, I remember I did a couple of videos. I was like, Bill Carson, 19 Keys. Not that I have anything against them, even, Polite, the young elder, sorry, not the young Pharaoh. There were just so many people that you could clearly hear the information came from the master teacher, but they just didn't give him any acknowledgement. And I thought, at least that's the least you can do. Like, even when you're in university or college and you're quoting something from someone, you go cite it, you go give the
Yeah,
reference
you got
just
a
to
works
give,
cited page in there
yeah,
for a
show some
reason. Yeah.
respect where respect is due, but don't act like it's yours, because when you get to a point where people that want to decipher it and ask you questions about it, you're not going to be able to, So he didn't mind. He said there will come a day that's why he said, I came giving you what you want to learn, to want what I have to give, because there's going to come a time when, although he kept saying, go and check it out, go and check it out, he's like, there's going to get to a point where you can't check it out from anyone else. And that's when you will really know the divinity of why is he able to put out that information and no one else is. And when you read certain information, like when he broke down and came up with the genetic kiss, or the food for the gods, or the hermaphrodite, the three-parent birth, just the tri-solar system of risk, so many things that you go back and you see there's a book from the 70s, 80s, 90s that he put out before anyone else was talking about it. So, we know who we got amongst us. And yeah, we're just looking forward for him to be back amongst us, so that the whole of, humanity can benefit from. Imagine, right? This is one of the things that I know, when you start to look at the racism and look at the suppression of who he is. It's like, if he has the answers to the problems of the world and the cures and stuff like that, like, why wouldn't you want to at least research it, look at it, or put him to the test and say, okay, how
Well,
do we
why wouldn't
solve
you
this?
want to access that and
Yeah,
use it?
yeah, you see. So it's
But
kind of like cutting your nose to spite your face, as they say. But yeah, we can see what's
mhm.
going on the planet stage. And yeah, we got to just focus on, like you say, each one, reach one and teach one, share the truth. That's the most noble thing anyone can do, to share the truth. And just, regardless of
Yeah, and I
how,
gotta,
yeah, how it
gotta
may
keep reading and keep researching. It's funny
study.
how I had all of this stuff again. I got my little booklet because I'm a positive affirmation guy, so I like to. I
Yeah.
think this was like a year ago. You was talking about the power of your signature and writing stuff down and doing it.
That's
And
right.
literally, as I'm doing this stuff and I got these questions in my head, the answer is coming before I say it. I'm about to say, like, how do you do this? And I could literally hear you saying, because he's written over 1,000 books. Because he's written over 1,000 books. Because it's like, no. I've come to the realization that I have to continue to just order the
Yeah.
books that's available. Because in my head, I'm trying to like, okay, mind scroll, breath scroll, like trying to dictate
Mm,
the pace of which I want to receive the information. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? But
And there's another thing
it's
as well when it comes to the books, when we say he's written over 1,000 books, you always find people who try to throw shade on it or a negative thing on it. They're like, oh, they ain't books, they're pamphlets. Like there's some pamphlets that he wrote little introduction just to get people to read. and then they went to the five kind of like dollar, we call them the $5 scrolls, like the God series. But then you look at books like the 360 questions to ask, or the degree of Christism, or the big thick translation of all the scriptures. I mean, these are serious books. So people
Like
will
the Holy
always,
Tablet.
yeah, exactly. So people will try to say, oh, they're not books, but look at everyone that's ever come on the planet, even down to, I mean, if you look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or the most prolific authors that they will talk about. Most of these guys, if if they get past 2 or 3 books, or 5 books, 10 books, that's, to them, is amazing. Now compare 5 books, 10 books, or even 20 books to 1,000 books. It's like there's not even any comparison. Like, and the type of work as well that's being done,
Exactly.
translating languages and stuff. So, people can fool
To
themselves,
be
but
able to break things down in English to the simplest form, where it resonates with somebody inner being, is like
yeah,
it's
how?
undeniable. It's so many different incidents that I can relate to. And
Mm,
you talking about from a guy, I feel like, I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm in the drawer. And
mm.
it's just certain stuff that it's
It's
been right in your
undeniable.
face that you don't
Yeah.
even put together until somebody with the expertise be like, hold on, just sit down. Just look at this.
Yeah.
Just look at, don't even go any further. It's just that
Yep.
if if it was Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, let's just say if that was true.
Mm.
When he killed his brother, who was he scared of? So it's already people out there that exist. It's just like
I know, I know. Yeah, and people just still would try and deny it. Well, and then they start trying to talk and make excuses for him, like, well, he can do whatever he wants. He can do, and then you say, no, actually, he can't do anything. Then, like, what do you mean he can't do
yeah,
anything?
yeah.
Then you say, tell him
But
to
when
get
you
rid of, the problems on the planet. And all of a sudden, oh, it doesn't work like that. Okay, how does it work? Tell us how it works. Where we can get him to actually do useful stuff for us. If he really is almighty, all powerful, all, like t-
or what is his direct line? What's his number? I want to call. We all got
right.
some questions. We got some questions, man.
Yeah. Can he give us
I'm
one day where one day when he's available for, but people talk to themselves in their heads and talk to their ancestors who helped them, and they just say, yeah, it was Jesus that did it. Like, okay. Then you say, have you ever met? Yes, I have a personal relationship with him. Okay. What does he look like? They can't tell you. Well,
yeah,
he's in the spirit. Okay.
yeah,
It's like, just stop lying, stop making excuses, just
yeah.
like deal with the
Yeah.
reality
A
that,
prime example was that lady that came in the store. I don't know when it was, a couple weeks
yeah.
ago, but when it was published, and it's like, as much as it hurted to see somebody's mental,
Mm,
just like the belief, but that's a prime example of what it is. It's to the
right.
point where you couldn't even talk. Forget that part, but you just asking basic questions,
Right.
right? But that's what they go into. They go into a frenzy, and then it's automatically hate, and it's just uncontrollable. And it's like, wow, that's the problem, right?
That's
That
right.
is the problem. Like, your belief system have you so wrapped up to the fact that you can't even have a regular conversation with somebody because you know
Yep. But you're meant to be a representative of this loving, caring, kind deity or God or Allah or whatever. It's like, can we just have a conversation? Like, but as painful as some people have said that was, it still helped because there people were saying in the comments, my mother's like that, my auntie's like that, and so there are people who hopefully when they see it,
literally, I'm quite sure we all got some family members that's like that.
yeah,
Can
that when they
you
see it, they
know
can be like,
we
you know what, is that what I'm really like, and it may help them to wake up, because yeah, it can be a very sad and lonely thing to just be in that realm of just convincing yourself that what you're saying makes sense when deep down you know it doesn't make sense. you know.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, that's why,
that's why we're here.
the 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 liberation in the language is, like I'm starting to see that now because a lot of that stuff is still new to me, but it's not easy to draw the correlation between, because if you've been in the programming so much, it's like you just completely go the opposite way. It's just simple. If a lot of
Yeah.
people doing something, you be the one to go this way.
Yep.
But
And it can become, yeah, I mean, it can be lonely because you can't be and resonate with people that are, it's like people are talking nonsense and you know it's nonsense, but you've got to just pretend or sit there and no, you won't do it. Your being won't allow you to. So you're just gonna have to like either do your best to show them the truth or you leave them alone. That's another thing. We ain't trying to be like badgering people. Like we know the truth is the truth. So you either accept it or you don't. Either way,
yeah, yeah.
those who do will move forward with accepting it in peace, and those who don't, they can remain going round in circles under the spell. And yeah,
And
that's
that's
that's the
another
choice
thing that,
everyone needs to make.
yeah,
Mm,
that's a
yeah.
and you're right, Ken. And that's something that when you take on this truth seeking and you taking on this walk, that's something that you got to do. And that may come in the form of somebody that share your blood and your DNA
Hmm.
that you
Yeah,
love so much. But you're right, some people are just,
they're not ready.
the
They're not ready.
programming is deep. And
Mm,
I'm not necessarily saying that I'm gonna give up on them, but you're right. You have to let them go,
yeah,
but you have to take the responsibility of being the example to show them.
right. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think that that's really, for anybody who coming into this, anybody who's accepting it as true, if you just doing the basics of practicing Nuwap to a Wu-Sabat, like you're gonna change. People will see it in your physical appearance.
Yeah,
People will see it in your temperament. It's just like it's
it
like the
is.
combination of all the good things from religion put together.
That's
You
right.
learn how to eat right. Simple. If it don't come from the ground, put it down.
Hmm.
Don't watch certain stuff. Don't listen to certain stuff. It's just like it's really
It's actually common sense. But common sense is so uncommon these days. That's the thing about it. It's like it's literally
yeah.
common sense. Does it work? Yeah. So what's the problem? But yeah, I'm gonna have to leave it at that because I got another session, another one-to-one to do. So yeah, I want to appreciate love you for your time, for your questions, and just for the dialogue and the conversation. Keep up the good work, and yeah, work your way into the family, into the community, and just keep growing and keep teaching and keep learning and
Yeah, yeah.
support.
That's
But
one thing.
yeah, where
Thanks
we're at now.
again.
So sorry, where we're at now is literally putting things into practice, nation building. Like really building communities and coming together because you have to show, like you say, through your example, the alternative, so people don't feel like they ain't got nothing once they've dropped it because it's something they've held on to their entire life, and you're just coming along and saying, look at it again, re-add it again, read and see, like, does it make sense to you now in this 20, 25? Does it make sense? And yeah, mate. Sorry, you were going to say something. I think
No, I was no, I was in agreement with you, Shakir. I
yeah.
understand you're busy, man. You got a lot of work to do. You got a lot of work to do.
To
I'm
we
in. I
all
mean,
have.
like I said,
Yeah.
I'm in the Telegram groups and
Yeah,
the
stay tuned.
Wu-Sabat 24/7 thing was just so genius. That was genius to just
Yeah. Yeah,
keep
we
that on play for any and everything because that's another thing. A lot of the knowledge is so deep and it's so much that you have to repetitively keep listening to it and listening to it to
yep.
catch it because you've been programmed so much, you go into information overload and just be
Yeah, and
Like,
every time you listen, you learn something new that you missed the first time or whatever time. So yeah, it's repetition is definitely the way to reinforce or what knowledge and what you've learned. So yeah. But all right, yeah. Stay in the Telegram group because we will be posting things and we're doing projects and all kinds of things where it's all about us coming together and building. So we were posting everything in the group. All right. So
most
until
definitely,
next time.
I'll be making sure I'm staying locked in. And I found I mean I asked the question. The closest place to me is a store that somebody have in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
So
Yeah, Texas.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to, and it's about a 9 hour drive, but
Yeah,
I've
make it.
researched them.
Yeah,
I've
try and make
researched
it.
them and looked them up. Yeah, they super legit, super
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah, I think is that Nabab, I think it might be, yeah, their store. But yeah, even if it's just once in a in a month or whatever, just go and yeah, kind of connect with them, link with them and just like experience it all. And yeah, this is real. Wu-Sabat is the future and Wu-Sabat is so real. And anyone who you struggle in terms of maybe at first, like I gave the example with Jacob and the angel. Um and we are stubborn and been programmed, so we're not going to be like gullible to just accept anything. So it's normal for people to like be skeptical, but then do the research, check it out and study, and don't just be like just blind like, so I'm skeptical but I don't want to know. It's like, well, how are you going to ever know then? So when people that are genuine take the time and research, they'll realize, like, it's the truth, you know
It's the real deal.
the real deal.
Like it's no other way to put it again.
Yeah.
But
All
I know
right.
you gotta go. I
All
appreciate
right. Wadu
love.
Zamal.
Why do?
Peace out. Wadu.